All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on Sikkim 365's 365 Sports. And time to take a look at a few stories that we have not otherwise gotten to and otherwise might not get to based on our usual conversations. And maybe some of these we would have, but taking a look at some of these stories, we're going to start off with O'Shawn Mathis, the big-time defensive lineman from TCU. He announced after Gary Patterson's departure, I guess a bit after that, because Patterson was, mutually left in season. So Mathis, after the season, announced that he was going to be heading out of Fort Worth. Really good player, 6'5", 260-ish pounds or so. All Big 12 guy, 7 tackles for loss, team-high 4 sacks, all in 2021. From Maynard, Texas originally. And he put out his top 5 today of the schools that he has taken a look at. Southern Cal is one of those. Texas, as you would expect, is one of those with that Gary Patterson connection. Ole Miss, Penn State, and Nebraska.
Oh!
The 5 schools that O'Shawn Mathis has whittled down his finalists to. And I don't know. He said, thankful for all of the schools who showed love and interest, but here's my top 5. I don't know if that means he's dead set. I would assume so if he's putting out the graphic. But, yeah, SC, UT, Ole Miss, Penn State, Nebraska. It looks like one of those 5 will be getting a very talented defensive lineman from TCU and O'Shawn Mathis.
What was the name of that show in the morning that one of these things doesn't go together or whatever it was, like a little rhyme?
Yeah, Sesame Street.
Show in the morning?
Yeah.
Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other.
One of those schools does not belong on that list. But it gave me a little bit of a perk.
Well, look, neither does USC.
Yeah, but I know. That's the same, basically the same thing. Yeah,
they got Lincoln Riley.
Well, he's a hell of a player. He's going to make somebody better. And it would be, to me, an upset if it's not Texas because he's playing for his ex-coach. And if they don't get him, then somebody else is going to have to find a way to get him to go somewhere else.
Yeah, off that list, I'd say Texas, I'd probably say would be the favorite. I don't know O'Shawn Mathis, so I don't know what his goals and likes and dislikes and all that are. I don't know if he likes the sun. Maybe L.A. is where he wants to be. Yeah. But either way, he's going to end up at either SC, UT, Ole Miss, Penn State, or Nebraska, and no idea on a timeline for him. But it does seem like there's a lot of Longhorn momentum just because of Patterson, which makes a lot of sense. So an interesting, just a little note from Stuart Mandel on coaching contracts over the last year. So Jim Harbaugh signs and agrees to a new deal with Michigan, right? And they're still, I don't know if you've seen
$7 million. You see that?
$7 million what?
That's his contract. Did you see that with Harbaugh?
$8 million, actually.
Hey, $8 million. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So anyways, Jim Harbaugh, new deal with Michigan, and there's still been a lot of articles about, the lack of a buyout or the little buyout and how this really doesn't change anything in terms of if he wants to go to the NFL eventually, which just, I don't know. That's not a fun game to play if you're a Michigan fan. But the reason I bring it up is because of the fact that Stuart Mandel put out, just to give you a perspective on how much craziness has been going on, Ryan Day was the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. He was making $6.6 million. That was when the year started. He is now the 5th highest paid coach in the Big Ten. So he went from number 1
Isn't that crazy?
to number 5 in one offseason. Mel Tucker, $9.5 million from Michigan State. James Franklin, $8.5 million from Penn State. Jim Harbaugh, $8 million from Michigan. And Kirk Ferentz, $7 million from Iowa. So, yeah, he went from number 1 to number 5, and I don't know. I don't think it'll probably take too long before he gets bumped back up somewhere. But to get back at number 1, he'd have to make over $9.5 million, which is what Mel Tucker is currently making now at Michigan State.
Isn't it amazing?
With no conference titles.
And here's the thing. It's not going to ever go down below that now.
No.
It will always. Now, the next thing you know, the average contracts in the next 2 or 3 years, I mean, really among the top 40 programs is going to be $10 million a year. Because you're talking about in 1 year from 5th or from 1st to 5th, and that's a guy at Ohio State. And then, you know what? They'll redo his deal here pretty soon.
Oh, he'll be making 10.
And he'll be making 10, 9.9, whatever.
And then what? And then, whoever the next guy is will make 11, 12, and you wonder where it stops. But,
it never will.
They're already close to 10 thanks to that Mel Tucker deal. So, yeah, Ryan Day, now the 5th highest paid head coach per year in the Big Ten. Just thought that was kind of interesting. What has been very interesting to see today is the news surrounding now former Arizona State quarterback Jaden Daniels announcing that he is going to be entering the transfer portal. And there is a video that was put out. I'm not sure who put it out. It had to be a player on Arizona State's team because it came from their locker room. I sent Armstrong the video, but there were a couple of racial slurs that I don't think we could get beeped out to be able to play it. And basically what the video is a bunch of people, a bunch of players gathered around Jaden Daniels' locker upon news that he has entered the transfer portal and basically rummaging through his locker. And one guy saying... the guy who dropped the racial, he was saying it like casually in passing, black player, he sucks anyways. And you heard that a couple of different times in the videos. And yeah, it's just basically, and the video's still out there. It got taken down by a couple of places, but it's been, put back up, or it's not been taken down on certain timelines that had put it up earlier. But yeah, it's just Arizona State players going through his locker and saying he sucks anyways, and all, basically disparaging the guy. But he did make the announcement that he is entering the transfer portal. According to Max Olson over at The Athletic, that now puts him at, I believe, number 1 or number 2 on their new transfer portal rankings. At this stage, it's almost by default because, quite frankly, I don't think Jaden Daniels is that great, but he might be in the current crop of guys who are available. But yeah, he's going to be in the transfer portal, so Jaden Daniels will be headed somewhere else. The Herm Edwards regime there in Arizona looks like it is on its very last legs. I think this video is only going to do even more damage.
Herm's got a problem.
He's got massive issues.
This alone would make me wonder, like, how do a guy enters the transfer portal and the guys are raiding his locker, whether that is what's really going on or not.
Yes.
The fact that this stuff is even allowed or it can happen in a program. I don't think I've never seen anything like this. There's thousands of people in the transfer portal. I've never seen a team so mad at a guy for leaving that they raid his locker.
Yeah, they're cleaning it up, Paul, I guess is what you could say they were doing. But I'm sure there was an item or two that might have ended up in one of their other lockers. But yeah, you could call it cleaning out Jaden Daniels' locker. But yeah, it's a bunch of players saying he sucked anyways and blah, blah, blah. And that is the inside of the ASU locker room. So now that's out there. You combine that with all the other stuff that's been swirling with Arizona State, and just makes you wonder about the culture and how much longer he's really going to last there, because it is very toxic at the moment for Arizona State football. And today was just another bad look. And whatever you feel about Jaden Daniels, that's fine. But when you've already got a culture that's under a microscope a little bit, and then you see that video, it just makes it feel even more so that way. So we will see what happens as Arizona State football now loses Jaden Daniels and he enters the transfer portal. This was from Texas A&M earlier today. On February the 24th, a week from today, they announced that they will rename the floor inside Reed Arena Gary Blair Court. So
won a national title, baby. And good for A&M.
We know how controversial court namings are around here, so I thought I would bring that up.
You think he went to the...
He went to strong-arm people to get his name on the court? No, I don't think so.
I think he did any political...
I watched the video. So he didn't even know they were coming to his house.
Yeah,
to tell him.
He's a total surprise.
Like, whoa, really?
I played golf with him a couple of times down at College Station with Kyle Louie and his house that he has on the golf course. I love that guy, Gary Blair. And I know that, he beat Baylor straight up that 2000 and... What was it, 11? Mm-hmm. 11 team? Good for him. He's not he doesn't mean he doesn't have an opinion, but he doesn't, good for him. He's retired. You put the name on the court.
Yep. So A&M going to be honoring Reed Arena or Gary Blair with a Gary Blair Court there a week from today, so next Thursday. A couple of other notes NFL-wise, and I want to get to a video here in a second, but Matthew Stafford, did y'all see that video?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't send this one to Armstrong, but it's from the Rams Super Bowl celebration. He's standing there with his wife, and there's a photographer, and she falls off the stage. The photographer falls off the stage. And Stafford just whoop-de-whoops and turns around like he didn't see anything and kind of pretends like, oh, I didn't see that girl just fall off the stage. Meanwhile, his wife had a bit more of an oh, my God reaction. a lot of people bagging on Matthew Stafford for the way he reacted to this poor woman falling. Yeah, here you go. So you see Stafford's wife right there. She's like, oh, my God. And she goes walking over to where the woman fell down. Stafford just turns around. Yeah, you see it right there. Stafford says, oh, my God. And he turns around and starts drinking water. And his wife, meanwhile, had a bit more of a solid and human reaction to that. So a lot of people have been bagging on Matthew Stafford for the way that he reacted to that poor woman falling off of the stage. And come to find out that woman, a tweet just a second ago, and I'm hoping that it's still the case and it wasn't deleted because it's not true. Okay, good. Well, Kelly and Matthew Stafford have announced they are going to cover the medical expenses for the photographer who fell off of the stage. To cover that, they announced they will be covering the medical expenses for Kelly Smiley, who fell off a stage during Wednesday's Super Bowl parade and fractured her spine. We have been in communication with Kelly Smiley, and we are sorry for what happened, I guess is a quote from their team. But yeah, you can say what you want to about his reaction. It wasn't great, especially compared to his wife's, because it just looked like, oh, I don't care, and turned away. But they are going to cover her medical expenses. Some will say that's the least they could do or whatever. It's not like he pushed her off the stage either. But, that's a nice gesture, I feel like.
Is there a possibility, and we know that there was alcohol involved, not in the woman who fell, but alcohol, and Matthew Stafford was enjoying him. He wasn't the only one. It could have been any player at the moment. That he saw that and thought maybe it was someone who just fell down, passed out, or whatever.
I don't think Matthew Stafford was completely.
No.
I think alcohol is definitely playing a role here. I'm not trying to blame the guy.
I mean, he was up giving his speech, and he had the Don Julio in his hand. So
yeah. And wouldn't you know it? You have this this moment. Your best moment was probably when you won the Super Bowl, and then 2 days, 3 days later, 4 days later, you have this parade, and now that turns into because of social media or whatever. Could have you reacted better? Sure. At the same time, I'm not going to condemn the guy for it.
No, and they're doing something nice, and hopefully they would have done it regardless of if his reaction would have been caught on camera. But when you've made as much money as they have, and you can give a little, and I'm sure they give a lot in various ways. But for this young woman who just fractured her spine, just covered a Super Bowl parade, I mean, thoughts with her and her long recovery back, and best wishes for her, no doubt about that. I had mentioned a couple of days ago the trial that's going on, the Angels employee, and his involvement in distributing drugs to late pitcher Tyler Skaggs, who overdosed when the Angels were in DFW to play the Texas Rangers. Former LA Communications Director Eric Kay found guilty by a jury of both distributing opioids in the Angels organization and providing Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs with fentanyl-laced pills that later killed him. According to ESPN's TJ Quinn, there will be a sentencing hearing in late June, a minimum sentence of 20 years. Minimum sentence of 20 years. Both charges he was convicted of are felonies. It was a week plus long trial. Opening statements were back on February the 8th, and statements closing the trial were just earlier today. Jury deliberated for under 3 hours. And now the Skaggs family in kind has released a statement. They are celebrating this verdict. They feel like there's been some justice done. Still obviously heartbroken about their son. But their attorney, Rusty Hardin, that name familiar, Rusty Hardin? He also released a statement and promised civil action against the Angels for being aware of Kay's drug trafficking, and has also called for MLB to take further action on the issue. So there you go with the Skaggs story there.
That thing went pretty quickly. They got the trial, they got it done.
Well, the interesting thing is some of the things that Matt Harvey.
That's going to be laid out yesterday or 2 days ago. Yeah,
absolutely.
He's going to face at least 20 years in jail and found directly of distributing the drugs that killed Tyler Skaggs. Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva. Oh, man.
I hate the way I reacted to this because that's not very nice. But
it's not I had very angry female members of my family who very much love the Winter Olympics and ice skating, especially, reacting very hard. Well, at least one of them reacting sort of harshly towards this girl initially. I'm blaming the people that are the adults in the situation.
The Russians.
Yes.
The Russians. They're not straight up about anything.
No.
I mean, when it comes to the Olympics, they've been cheating since they've been in the Olympics.
I saw it. Well, he haven't told the story about what happened with her today, but I saw one response to the tweet. I think it's Dan Wetzel who put it up, that her coaches and guardians failed her.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's 15 years old. She's taken a combination of drugs that enhance and can better, her performance. I mean, performance-enhancing drugs. And it wasn't like she was taking one or two and just one of them, oh, that was grandpa's old cough medicine or whatever BS she tried to throw out there originally, which we know is BS. It was a specific combination that just so happens you accidentally took it out of grandpa's medicine bottle, which nobody ever does that unless they're intentionally trying to take prescription drugs. So you accidentally did that. And all these accidents that this 15-year-old figure skater from Russia happened to just result in a combination that is performance enhancing. That's lottery odds right there. What a believable story for one, and not at all fishy, and especially not where she's coming from. So there was all of that with Kamila Valieva. I know a lot of people aren't even watching the Olympics at this point, which is understandable. But she did perform again today in the free skate competition and finished in 4th place, had multiple slip-ups. She was apparently very emotional as she finished up her routine. And her coach said she was was not happy with her performance and said that she stopped fighting on the ice. That's what her coach said. But the 15-year-old finishes 4th. So I guess that calms down some of the drama in terms of had she won another gold, then you'd hear more and more about the drug stuff. And instead, she finishes 4th. And that's a little bit of karma, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, and her coach said she lost the fire. It's like, oh, yeah, well, we cheated. And the world found out about it, and then they made her into the victim in all this. She felt bad, as she should as a 15-year-old girl. She had no choice in the matter, and maybe she didn't feel like skating as hard before. I mean, yeah, this is not like, none of this is really about her.
No,
like
it's not.
She is really one of the victims in all of this. She's a pawn in Russia's game to cheat, and people shouldn't come down on her. She's 15. We should, as we should be doing in everything that they do, come down on Russia. Russia sucks, man.
That's not going to happen, man. You're wasting your breath. But, I mean, we should have an opinion, passing it or not. Yeah.
I will say this about, I know.
No,
but I had, I think it was my mom. We started getting a little text back and forth on this, and I just kind of, I wasn't like hot and heavy about it anyways. I just said, it's not surprising. Of course they're cheating. I have no doubts they're cheating. I have no doubts it was intentional. Look where it's coming from, of course. And look at the history of cheating. It's every single games they're cheating. So, there was that part of it, but I don't blame her directly. I don't think that she's part of this scheme in any way. I think she's a pawn, like Paul said. And, basically the point of the conversation was, if you're tired of Russia getting the benefit of the doubt from the IOC every single time, stop watching. Stop watching, because it's not changing. It's not changing. They do it every single game. They cheat, and somehow, you have to be called the ROC. That's going to be your big punish. Just stop watching. And apparently a lot of people have. All right.
As soon as the Super Bowl game ended, about 6 minutes later, they went to the Olympic Games, and I realized, oh, damn, and I said another word, and I turned the channel.
I felt genuinely bad for NBC that it timed out that they were in, like, 2-man bobsled preliminary.
Yeah.
So that's where you're like, usually you follow it up with some big show that you're trying to get ratings on. It's 2-man bobsled.
Like a hockey final or something, like something big. But, it was kind of, all right, 2 more stories, and this is an all-time sports quote right here from Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson, there's the Saudi Arabian Golf League that's getting started up. And there's a lot of controversy about Saudi Arabia. I mentioned all the flack WWE got when they started running shows out there because of human rights issues and just the way that government operates. And WWE basically said, we don't care. It's too much money to pass up, and we really don't care. Well, basically, Phil Mickelson's saying that as well. Talking about this new league and the possibility of competing with the PGA Tour, here's a direct quote from Phil Mickelson. They're scary mother blankers to get involved with, Mickelson told author Alan Shipnuck, who posted an excerpt of his upcoming book, Phil, the Rip-Roaring and Unauthorized Biography of Golf's Most Colorful Superstar. He said, they're scary mother blankers to get involved with, talking about the Saudi Arabians. They killed Washington Post reporter and U.S. resident Jamal Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people over there for being gay. Knowing all this, why would I even consider it? Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. So they kill people and they hate gays, they do all that, but this is an opportunity to really take it to the PGA, guys.
Phil Mickelson is not Tiger Woods, although he won a major last year. He's at the end of as far as his illustrious career. He's still playing on the senior, whatever they call it, champions, whatever it's called. But he is a businessman.
Yeah.
Flat out, just like politicians, just like LeBron James in China, the businessman. And the money is what he's looking at, but he also wants, he thinks, to gain some leverage on the PGA Tour the way things are handled when it comes to their rights.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, but this is not really. I mean, of course, does not care about the ethics of this. Clearly, he said that. But it's not the most ethical way to do it. Like, oh, hey, you're not going to give us, I can't make money on my NFTs. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go bargain with the Saudis.
Yeah.
But you know what? He said what he said, and he wasn't afraid to say what he said. He'll get butchered for this, and we're talking about it.
He's going to make money.
But
it doesn't matter.
God, he was honest about it.
Yeah, look, he's honest about it, but. Like there's no, it's easy to say what you want to say when there's zero consequences to it because he's not going to lose $1. He's going to make money on this. So there are plenty of people who can't say what they want to say about the PGA or whatever's going on because they're not going to make any money off it. But Phil is good either way. So he's not living on some kind of moral honesty high ground. He has no consequences for whatever he says.
There might be some sponsors.
He could have done it with his pants down and people have been like, oh, well, I mean, what's going to happen?
I just think that's an all-timer quote of like, sure, all this horrific stuff is going on, but I'm going to take it to the PGA Tour.
Would you rather? What if LeBron, when he was questioned about everything and connections to China and all that, what if he would have come out and said that? Would you have at least said, thank you for being honest?
I would have appreciated him being honest. Yeah, I appreciate Phil being honest. Yeah. If LeBron would have said, look, I've got Space Jam 2 coming out. I need China to watch it.
Yes. No matter what they're doing with human rights, I'm a businessman too.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the money, and that's why there's talk about this league, $20 million purses. DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson, some of the names that rumored that might be involved with Mickelson. And there's even talk about like $100 million offer for Bryson DeChambeau because there's unlimited money in Saudi Arabia. There's
they have
unlimited.
a $500 billion
it's unlimited.
Trust fund.
Doesn't even need to be a number because there's no number to truly calculate it. But Mickelson seems totally on board, and he explains there why. I just found that to be a really wild quote, and we'll see who else joins him. That seems to be a real question right now of who all is going to jump on. But when you're talking about $100 million for DeChambeau, allegedly, $20 million purses. I mean, they're just going to price themselves into taking players away. I mean, it's pretty clear to see that guys like Phil are going to see those money price or those prices and those potential, winning purses, and that's going to be hard to turn down. $20 million versus whatever you would make in the PGA
Paul,
Tour.
if Saudi Arabia offered you to do a podcast and they would pay you $500,000 a year, what would you say to them?
I would be in a very moral pickle because I wouldn't want to do it. But look, it's life-changing money. I'm not getting that money anywhere else. Okay. And I live in America. I've got bills, man.
Okay.
Yep. So, and he has some other comments about, the PGA and the way they operate. It's very clear he's got an axe to grind with them, and there's a little bit of a fight. Now, finally, this is a little quote from Nick Saban, this little clip from Nick Saban. He was talking with the Alabama FCA. Saw this being passed around on the timeline earlier today. Alabama Football Coaches Association convention. And he was speaking to a virtual clinic, and I just want to see what y'all's thoughts are on this. Henry Ruggs got in trouble earlier this year. The bad car wreck that killed a young woman. He was going like 150 miles an hour or whatever, well over 100 miles per hour, was drunk, was riding with his girlfriend, and it was all just bad. And that leads to Nick Saban right here referring to Henry Ruggs and his situation and talking about leadership and friends and things of that nature. Just take a look. Here's Nick Saban at the Alabama FCA.
More than ever before, to influence the other players on the team because people are more apprehensive about being leaders than they've ever been before because they're worried about what everybody thinks. The greatest example is you ask one of your players, you got to get up in front of 1,000 people and give a speech. You're going to be nervous and anxious? He's going to say, hell yeah. Why is that? Because you're afraid of what everybody out there thinks of you.
Absolutely.
Well, if there was a player in Las Vegas who was drinking at 3 o'clock in the morning with his buddies and his girlfriend, and somebody would have taken his keys away, probably would have pissed him off, probably would have made him mad, probably wouldn't have thought very much of you for doing that. But would he be better off now, or is he better off where he was going 156 miles an hour and running the ass into somebody and killing them? and he's in jail, and he doesn't have a career anymore, and he's a good kid, and he never had one problem on our team in Alabama. So what kind of friend were you? What kind of leader were you when you allowed the guy to do it? But nobody wants to do that because they're afraid of what somebody's going to think of them.
So there you go. There was Nick Saban at the Alabama FCA speaking. I just found that I saw that start to swirl around on my timeline, and I thought that was really interesting to hear him comment on that way, and obviously referring to
he's not
Henry
blaming those who should have taken his keys away for what happened, but he's saying that it would have been nice for somebody not to worry about, oh, come on, man, let him,
It's not a perfect comparison,
No.
but if you just open your brain up, which I know some will still have difficulty doing that, because Saban, he is blaming everybody but Henry. That's not the case. It's not a perfect comparison, but if you give yourself some freedom to think, then you see what he's trying to say there in regards to leadership. I just found it very interesting.
I could listen to him, and I know a lot of people may not. I could listen to him talk all day. I could. All right, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I just think that it's that I don't know if you ever seen the movie Schindler's at the end, where he's getting on the train and he's like, could I have helped one more, this ring, this watch? What could you do? One more thing. Could you have done more? Even if you didn't know. I think that's kind of the message, saying like, can you do more? You be a leader, do more.
Yep, so there's a few things off the radar.
I love that from Nick Saban, and I know some people will disagree, and I don't care. When we come back, Megan Imbert